All right. Well, we are recording now. It is actually recording. I see it recording at the top of my screen. That
I
is a
see you
good
too.
sign. I am Kirk M. Samuels, the Intimacy Incubator. And part of my mission statement is to co-create a world of intimacy and unconditional connection. And so one of the ways I do that is by creating conversation, by bringing people maybe into your sphere, into your world, into your consciousness that maybe you didn't know about, and kind of unpack a thought or two or something like that. And so today, full disclosure, I got one of my inner circles, one of my inner circle guys on here. I had to bribe him to come on here the day after Christmas.
A lot of money paid.
I had to pay him a whole lot of money. So I hope y'all are appreciative of how much money I had to pay him to come on and record this webinar. So let me introduce to you my buddy, my bubba, my homie, Mr. Mike F. Hansen, Esquire. How you doing, Mike?
Esquire.
Huh?
No
Did you
Esquire.
like that? Did you like that intro? Was that a good intro?
Oh yeah, yeah. What does Esquire mean? Anyway,
I have
I've
no
never.
idea, man. I think it means you're a lawyer, actually. I don't know. Anyhow. So
Could
that
be.
full disclosure, we actually we have a free indeed podcast that we'll get to here during this short conversation. But and so in that podcast, most of the time it's Mike actually throwing questions at me. So this is kind of shoes on the other foot, me kind of
Yeah.
throwing questions at Mike a little bit. Although we just have open conversations, man. We're pretty much good with this flow. So Mike, for anyone who doesn't know you, where you from, man? Where you from? Where you represent? What's your hood?
I am from the Northeast. Portland, Maine is my home. I grew up there till I was 18-ish, I guess. I think I was about 18. So I can always tell people I'm from Maine and don't currently live there, obviously. Been back many times. But that's my home. And after that, though, I did some traveling and eventually settled here in Colorado. But yeah, I've been, that's my East Coast home.
Nice. So where at Maine? Let's get into this little topic here real
Oh,
quick.
yeah.
Where at Maine?
Portland, Maine, the original
So
Portland.
that's my question. So which one is the correct Portland?
Yeah, correct, being Portland, Maine. And my pet peeve continues to be when people say I'm going to or I visited Portland, and I wait for them to finish. And I just, you mean Portland what? Oregon, Maine? Which Portland? Because people assume Portland just is Portland, Oregon, when that is not the original Portland. So at least not in the United States. So that's my little East Coast Portland bias that gets under my skin sometimes.
Gotcha. So it's that East Coast, West Coast beef that you got with the Portlands, right? You got, which
I've never been to Portland, Oregon. I have nothing against it. I've just never been there. I hear nice things about it.
Yeah.
It's probably a lot bigger than Portland, Maine.
Cool. So growing up in Portland, Oregon, what was your first career when you left?
You just said I was brought up in Portland, Oregon.
I just wanted to see if you catch it, man. I was talking about the beef and which one's the original one. I just wanted to see if you would catch up with me throwing out the Oregon thing. I'm just testing you, man. I just wanted to see if your bias was truly a bias or not, or if I could just slip that by you.
Yep.
All right, so let's get serious, man. We got to be serious. All right, so you grew up in Portland, Maine. What was your first career when you left Portland, Maine?
First career was Air Force, and a time of growing up relatively quickly and finding faith, becoming a Christian as well, and then that faith really informing my next decision as to what I wanted to do and where I believe God was calling me, and that was ministry. And after about probably another 5 or 6, 7 years of that, between college and seminary and some time pastoring churches, landed being a hospital chaplain, which is what I'm currently doing for the last about 16 years, after including the training that I got when I was in San Antonio. Now here in Colorado, but been here since I'm in this office space, which is about the same neighborhood in the building of this hospital that I work in for the last 15 years. We're coming up on 15 years open, February of 2019.
Wow. That's and so the idea of being a chaplain in the hospital, I mean, by nature, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but by nature, you pretty much, I mean, you see people at their highs and at their lows. You see people in joy and in sorrow, right? Am I correct on that?
Oh yeah. I was just thinking this week actually, how not unlike police officers or firemen, firewomen, they EMTs, they see people kind of at their worst sometimes, and when the worst things are happening to them, and that's kind of what we have here. But I also do say, when people ask me about chaplaincy specifically, I tell people our work is sacred, and we see people in very sacred times in their lives. And sacred isn't good or bad. Good things happen here. Often people come to the hospital, except for if you're going to have a baby, generally, for something bad, whether it's elective or emergency. And they're coming here to get something fixed, get something taken care of. There's a problem. And so lots of good can come out of that encounter and that time that they have here, and we see it constantly. But yeah, it's very sacred. And as I hear in orientation pretty regularly, people, and I didn't originate this, but the idea that our everyday can be people's once in a lifetimes. And it's powerful in the sense that if anybody here listening can remember their experience or watching being in a hospital, they might they're going to remember maybe not their nurse, their face perhaps, but they remember how they felt, how they were treated, what the experience was like. And so we try to be very, very aware of that, because it's routine for us here, but it's not routine for anybody coming into the hospital.
And so part of your professional makeup is working with people and walking with people through, through different dynamics of their life. Am I correct on that?
Oh yeah. And it's different dynamics, different people, different circumstances, different reasons to, of course, be in here. Minutes ago, I was with a family when they had to say goodbye to a mom and a wife. And but I'm also coordinating to get some new people from our church, in fact, to come do baby blessings, which is an amazing favorite thing that I do around here. So you get kind of both ends of life, and then everything in between, just our routine visits that we do to see people, just checking in their rooms. It's cold calls, basically, just knock on the door, check in with them, and see if we can help them, and see where God takes the conversation. And you'd be surprised where the conversation can go sometimes. So we want to make sure people are treated with, of course, the utmost respect and compassion and grace, dignity, and let them know that they're cared about. And more than anything, they're not just a disease process. They're not just an injury. They're not just, whatever's going on in their body. They're a person. And often we're not just treating the patient, we're treating the family as well. They're the whole thing is the patient.
That's phenomenal, man. So you serve a hospital, but you actually work with individuals. You serve a hospital, but your whole job is people. And I mean that, and from what I know about you, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we're such good friends, because you do have a calming, or just kind of a real personable, connective nature to you. And you really thrive and you crave connection with people in terms of connecting spiritually and connecting personally and time and all those kinds of things. And so that's, if you will, your, one aspect of who you are and what you do in terms of working with people. Do you have any other ways that you work with people? I know the answer, obviously, but it's just, Ali, you just say, do you have any other ways that you work?
Oh, yes. For the last number of years, as I knew you, of course, before your class that you did, but we have our common history of pornography problems, if you will, habits, addictions. But God is so good to us, and He's done so much to work in our lives to get us together and to do some work together. You have your class here in my hospital, and I've been able to help move that along. And we've been able to work together, and we both saw the need to help guys, not just during, but after the class. And I found myself really wanting to learn more about what it means to be a coach for guys, people. And so I put myself through a course for coaching, life coaching, a place called Four Streams Counseling and Coaching Center, and got myself certified to be a certified life coach. And right now, just working on trying to build that up. I have a real passion for being with people and helping people, and just trying my best to ask the whole foundation to coaching is asking, transformative questions.
Yeah.
And if you ever listen to our podcast, you know that I love asking questions. So I'm going to have to refrain from asking you questions then. So I won't ask any questions.
Yeah. You're not allowed to ask me questions today, man. This is a one-way deal, man.
Okay.
You get your time any other time.
How true is that?
Not very true. So let's talk about this whole notion of coaching. I mean, coaching is like, to me, it seems like it's something that's maybe relatively new in the history of mankind, or the history of helping people, maybe in the last 10, 15, 20 years. I don't know the whole history of it. But so in this conversation being geared towards guys, if I'm a guy and I'm going through life and I'm just kind of, having my ups and downs, having my challenges, having all of the things that I have to kind of balance in life and do and try to be, maybe there's a guy out there that's like, man, why in the world what's coaching all about? Why do I need coaching? I mean, if my car is fixed, I go get it fixed. Why do I need coaching? I mean, what would be your response to that guy?
Well, part of the reason people seek out at least something like coaching is they may not feel like they're moving in a direction that they own. Maybe, does that make sense? Like, they don't feel like they control their destiny in a sense, and underlying all that is not a clear sense of purpose, mission, and direction. And that feeds right into, especially guys that I have a passion for, and I know you do too, and that is guys with a porn problem, because often a habit like that comes out of boredom. It comes out of just not having good direction, as I was just saying. And so the idea that a guy lacks direction is kind of just drifting along. And so a lot of the research and work that I've done around trying to figure out what to do and how to be a good coach is to just narrow your focus. And so that is my focus. I am a certified life coach, and I'll coach anyone on any particular need they have. And the reason why I can say that is because fundamentally coaching, I'm not the expert. You are the expert. You're the one who knows your life better than anyone else. And I ask questions that move you towards what you know best about yourself. And so I know that a guy doesn't want to stay in a porn problem. That just limits them. And so freedom moves some of those limits out of the way. And so once you see where you can go and the power behind having a much bigger horizon, you realize there's so much you can do with your life, and you realize that your life has so much more meaning and purpose because there's so much more out there to do. That porn problem can really reduce your life to what's just around you in the day to day, and how to get to the next fix, how to get to the next lie, how to get through the next lie, all that stuff. And so if somebody wants to move out of that, let's work on the problem, but let's also work on restoring what's been broken. And so that is my ministry. Is called Men Restored, and that's my website. But the idea is that I'm asking the first question, what do you need restored? And I can't answer that. You have to answer that. And so if you were a coach, here I am going to ask you a question. If I was a coach, and you're the client, I would ask, hey, Kirk, what needs restoring? And that's where we start. And it's a pretty wide open question. And I try not to ask very specific questions. I can ask specific, but not yes or no questions.
Yeah. And so when I'm a guy thinking pictures, and when I just hear what you just described, I almost picture athlete on the field. Let's say, star quarterback on your hometown football team. And, you name whoever it is that comes to mind for you. And whoever that person is a tremendous athlete, and that person can, can make or break a play or a game or a season or a franchise or an organization or whatever it is. But there's not a player, and let's take football, professional football, for example. There's not a player in the National Football League that does not have a coach. And so these guys spend their whole lives playing little league, playing middle school, high school, college, whatever, and they get to the pros. And all along that journey, they've been the player, but they've always had a coach the whole way. And so when I hear what you just said, I get the picture in mind of I'm living life, and sometimes, I'm worried about, blitz. I'm worried about the all the things that are happening on the field around me. And maybe, just maybe as a guy, I could use someone like you to kind of help me see the bigger picture, help me see the field, and help me, formulate a plan for success. Am I off base, or is that right?
No, I like that, because if you take the football analogy, the idea is that you need to be moving down the field. You need to be moving towards that goal. And not only are you moving towards the goal, you're moving towards winning the game. And not only are you moving towards winning the game, you're moving towards winning the season. And ultimately, in the NFL here in America, you're moving towards winning the whole thing. And so the question could be asked, where do you want to get? How we can break it down to not just what's the next play going to be. Within that whole play, where are all the players going to be? Where are they expected to be? And what is the expectation that you need to have as your individual role? And so the coach can't play the game for you. I can't play your game. I can't be your guy. I can't live your life. But I can ask you the questions to find out where you need to be. I'm still not the expert. I need you to be the expert, because you know your life better. And I believe that's one of the reasons why, as a coach, I can be a life coach. And when it comes to coaching men and talking to men, it's not just about the porn problem, because that's usually a smaller part. It could be a bigger part, obviously, but it's usually indicative of something else much bigger happening. As I mentioned earlier, things aren't moving in a positive direction. So, and I know you speak to this all the time, and we don't want the defense on the field. We want the offense on the field. A good defense minimizes their time on the field, and we want the part of the team that can score the points. I'm a huge fan of baseball, and it's definitely a unique, much different approach to how to score, how to win, and how to move the ball. You don't move the ball down the field as much as you strategize around how to keep the ball away from the other players, and whether you're a pitcher or a hitter, all those things. But the whole thing comes down to, as a coach, though, I can't play the game for someone else. I can't play the game for another guy. I can do my best to be inspiring. I can do my best to at least be in your corner and let you know that, hey, man, you have worth, and your story is definitely worth living, and you definitely matter. And so the niche of this help that I try to offer with pornography, and I tend to believe the more porn consumed, the less value a guy feels of himself. Part of what I want to at least approach is that, hey, man, you've got value to be able to have a big dream, to move your life forward in positive ways, ultimately, so you can serve the world and serve those around you, and especially those people who are most important to you. That should be the foundation to any freedom, is I'm going to turn my life around and start giving back. But it may take some time to get there. And yet that's some of the key to getting there, is finding a way to know that it's not all about you. But at the same time, it's your freedom. It's not my freedom, and it's not someone else's freedom. You have to get it and find it for yourself. And you're the player, not and you're part of a team. You're not the team. So it's important to remember that too.
Yeah. Man, and obviously, I'm passionate about what I'm passionate about, and, I'm passionate about bringing a whole new level of freedom in guys' lives that they've never experienced before, particularly, in the pornography realm and that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you, and this is just kind of me, in my opinion, besides all of your gifting and training and all that in the coaching aspect, which I don't even have that level of training as far as formalized coaching training. I tell you what, I would not, there are too many other people on planet Earth that I would trust more in terms of philosophy and in terms of desire and hope and passion and all that to work with a guy. I mean, you've walked side by side with me, fought shoulder to shoulder with me for several years now through Free Indeed and all that. And man, you're doing tremendous work, just even on your own, kind of through that avenue. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I have no problems talking to a guy and saying, hey, let me give you this guy Mike's name and number. And so I mean, you're just a phenomenal guy, man. Man, I know this is kind of we can actually see the clock on your wall. And it's kind of the end of your day, so I don't want to, yeah, it's a little bit backwards. No, actually, the way I see it, it's normal. Anyhow, man, I just wanted to kind of drop that in there, man, and get your opinions on why a guy should seek some level of coaching and why a guy should even care about some level of coaching, man. So I appreciate that.
You're not a failure if you seek that out, just like you're not a failure if you seek out counseling. At least for clarification as well, some people wonder what the differences are with counseling or therapy versus coaching. And I'm not a consultant either, so I'll differentiate. Do we have time to do that? Can I differentiate that for a minute?
Sure, man. It's your clock.
But it's backwards. So counseling and therapy looks kind of backwards in someone's life. You know, what decisions have you made? What relationships and how have you been with the relationships and all of that leading up to who you are right now. And so obviously all of us have that. All of us have good and bad in our past that have led us up to where we are now. And we all have made choices, good and bad. We've all made choices that have led us down a path or not. Part of my story is a moment where I did decide to go into the Air Force, or I could have made a decision to turn left and go work in an ironworks. And I get the power of choice is huge. And so that influences so much of where we are now and habits that we build and things that we go down in the past that we create in our lives and our minds and our brains through all of our choices. So some of that needs to be worked out if it becomes pathological in a sense in our current living, where our relationships need improving, our marriages, whatever it might be. And so counseling looks back. A consultant also is someone who's kind of an expert. And so I could be a consultant for chaplains, perhaps, because I've been a chaplain for so long. I haven't dug deep into getting more education into my chaplaincy, but I'm an expert in hospital and healthcare chaplaincy because I've been doing it for so long. And so there's consultants who offer that expertise that can come into an organization or talk to somebody and say, here's what you need to do, because that person's asking that question. I don't know where exactly to go, and so let me give you some advice on how to do that. But the coach, as I've been saying again and again, the coach is about moving forward. The consultant in a way is similar that way. But we're talking about, what do you want to do next? What are your goals? And to use that football analogy, we're not moving backwards, we're moving forwards toward the goal line. And so coaching, instead of looking backwards into the counseling therapy world, we are looking forward into the mission and purpose and direction part of your world. It all is informed by that past. And I also know and realize that if we run into things that need to be addressed from your past, then I could definitely move you over to be, with somebody who has that expertise and has that background. So that's some of the differences between how I understand coaching. And so that would be the approach. So when I ask that first question, what needs restoring? That's a forward-looking question, because you realize your past has brought you to where you are now, and where do you want to move your future to? Because you have all that control. We don't realize often how much control we have and volition that we have in our living, and I think we often take it for granted. So that's a big part of what I want to make sure is guys realize they have more control than they think, and they can make positive choices, even just small ones, moving forward.
So when a guy reaches out to you for coaching, what should he expect? Well, first of all, you talked about the bigger picture of your coaching, not specifically just to guys or not specifically just to pornography. So let me even back up on my question. When someone reaches out to you, whether it be, male or female, depending on their coaching needs, what should they expect when they reach out to you?
They're going to expect, some broad questions to begin with. And I really want to know from you, what's important, why do you feel like you need some direction in your life? And so the important part of knowing why you're here is a huge factor. And that's a really big question for people to ask themselves, but it has to be addressed, because if you're making choices, for instance, in a career, and you are really unhappy in a career, let's find out why you're unhappy. What's going to make you happy? And let's talk about a timeline. Let's talk about what that looks like and how realistic can we go and what goals can we set for that. And so I could be talking to a CEO who does not know how to handle a board. Okay, why is that important for you to handle a board? Well, because you need to be able to project a leadership style, and so there's a borderline consultant coaching aspect to this. I'm not the expertise in being a CEO, obviously, but I'm an expert, or I can help be around people, and I know people. As long as somebody wants to talk about and move towards something that's important to them, I can start working with asking them certain questions to get them moving in that direction. So just asking key questions, digging deeper, asking more why questions and purpose questions will get people moving forward. And so why is this important to you is a first question that I would start with. And tell me, why is it important, and what will it take to move you to that place that you want to go? And then let's talk about steps to get there. And then there's some accountability. I can't hold your hand, and we are going to meet on a weekly basis to talk about where have you gone with your action steps that you agreed to, that I didn't make for you. And so we could even talk about, what do you want to do with consequences, things like that. You can get creative. It's very creative. It's kind of a dance back and forth, if you will. And it's the idea of two people interacting and me helping somebody in a way that's different, not in the sense of telling you what to do, but finding out from you what's best for you, because you know it better than I do.
That's phenomenal, man. That's good stuff. I mean, like I said, man, there's not too many people that I would just openly trust pointing in your direction, pointing in any direction, and that would be that would be you, man. I mean, you definitely you're definitely one of the real deals, man. And I appreciate your time. Let me just flat out ask you, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, my site right now is menrestored.com, and you can just email me, mike@menrestored.com. Pretty simple.
And that's restored with a D at the end, right?
Yes, not restore, restored.
Yeah, gotcha. And then what's this little podcast thing you got going on, man? What's that whole deal about?
Man, I love podcasts. And I've been wanting to do one. It took me a year to finally convince you to do one. And so we have a podcast. I don't have a website for the podcast, except it's kept at freeindeed36.com/podcast. And we're up to 23 episodes. All of them except one, soon to be two actually, have Kirk and me talking. And I start with a question that just we move forward, and I just go from there. He starts talking, I start asking, and we go on for a half an hour, 25 or 35 minutes. And we have some pretty good topics. Why is it, and what is freedom? What about pain? Why do we have to deal with pain in our lives? And so we keep it somewhat tight around the issue of pornography, but it's never tight when it comes to someone's life, because it's never linear. It's always in different directions. So a lot of it's around your story and what's helped you, because I know what's helped you will help other guys. And so it's a real passion that I have. It's fun to do. We try to knock out a few at a time and be ahead of the game, which we kind of need to do soon. Yeah. So anyway, it's fun.
And then the one of the secrets behind the scenes to that is I never know what the topic is or what the question is or what we're going to talk about before each episode. So we literally just wing that whole thing. That's pretty funny. You just reminded me that I did give you access to my website, man. Wow. I kind of forgot about that. Good stuff, man.
What's there to think about?
There's nothing to think about, man. Same team, same dream, man. Hey, I appreciate
That's
you.
Right.
And man, thank you for your time, Mike. Appreciate it. We will absolutely be in touch, man. You take care, and I'll let you here in the next week.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you letting me come on here. It's a privilege, and maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Right on. See you, man. Bye.